Hey, Longevity Junkie, it's time to get your fix. I'm Nikki Lee, the OG Longevity Junkie.
And I am Buck Joffrey, the health-conscious hedonist.
All right, well, coming up on the show today, we talk with Emmy-winning writer on shows like Curb Your Enthusiasm, Ed Crasnick, about happiness and longevity. And we will also dissect another medical misadventure on Reddit. How are you feeling, Buck?
Yeah, so you know what? We're like, a couple weeks out now? I don't know. It's been a couple,
Not yet.
even?
Almost,
Not
just
even?
about.
Okay. So yeah, I'm still pretty sore and I'm feeling kind of overall kind of a little weak. I don't know. I just
They did
I don't
say that would happen. They said with themselves.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was because I've been a little sick too, and I didn't know if it was because I was sick or if it was because of stem cells or because maybe the stem cells contributed to maybe having a temporary decrease in immune system and getting sick, because you got sick too.
I
right?
did.
Yeah.
I did get, I did. So, I mean, they did kind of warn us about that.
Yeah.
So I guess, but I will say I did stem cells back in 2020 in November, and I don't remember ever getting sick. Now,
Yeah.
I think this trip was vastly different in the sense that I did I did actual things, right? Like my knees and my spine and my neck, like in my trapezius, like I did things, as opposed to before was very much more like, oh, hair, skin, nails, IV, just kind of much more, in my opinion, like beauty-ish.
Well,
and so
it
maybe
might be the
that's why.
volume too. Did you get IV stuff too last time?
I did get IV, yes, and I feel like I feel
Yeah,
like
you
it
got.
was
So you
like
did.
spaced
You
out.
got a fair amount
I
last
did get
time.
a fair amount, but the locations and the applications were completely different. So, like, I will say though, my knees are awesome. I
They're
feel
already good. They're already good.
they feel really good.
Really?
Yeah, my left is like maybe it's just a tad swollen, but it's really like I have full range. And I know that, honestly, I will say though, physical therapy exercises
Yeah.
are not easy. And
Yeah.
I've been working out like my whole life, but I didn't work out very much the week leading up to it. And then they told me, don't do exercising, while we're there. Obviously, we don't even have the time.
Yeah.
But then even after, so I'm kind of freaking out in that sense.
I started
But
working out a little bit.
you did?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just trying to be a
I
good
don't know.
patient.
I'm a terrible patient.
I know. Well, I know,
I'm a
and I'm
doctor,
too rule
and so
following.
doctors are always the worst patients, right? But anyway, I
It's
just
been
felt
fun.
like I wanted to start working a little bit, so I started lifting weights a little bit, but I haven't felt great anyway, so I'm not like
Yeah.
doing it that hard. But yeah,
Good.
my hips are still super stiff. My back is super stiff. Again,
Oh,
all of this, as you
interesting.
said, we expected. We didn't.
Yeah.
Your knees feeling great already is actually probably not typical, because as we discussed on that show, the typical timeline to actually see benefit is closer to like sort of the 2 to 3 month
Months.
range,
Yeah.
because you want these things to actually do their thing, right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah, you
I'm
don't grow
hopeful.
things overnight. So
Yeah,
takes 9 months to create a baby. So, it's
yeah,
gonna take some
yeah.
time. But I feel good. I'm hopeful. Like, yes, I was not feeling well. I do feel a lot better now. But can I say too that I think one of the reasons why things are healing, at least for me, so rapidly is I literally, because I wasn't feeling 100%, I let myself sleep 9 hours a day for a few days in a row.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And I rested. There was a couple times, I wasn't feeling well, but every time I woke up after that 9 hours, my knee range of motion dramatically increased.
That's good.
So I really think about, like, really, they say rest and let it do its thing. I really think if you're able to really dedicate that time to rest, that it has and for, at least for me, I'll speak for me, it has had a rapid improvement.
Yeah, I did that for about a week, and I couldn't do it anymore.
You just laid in bed and rested?
Pretty much.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Did you watch anything fun?
Watch the Vikings get killed 2 weeks in a row.
Oh, I know. Sorry about that.
That was sad. It's very sad.
Very sad for Buck.
Have you used any of that Viagra you picked up in Medellin?
I haven't, but I've taken it with me everywhere I go.
This is
It's like
true.
one of those, like, in my bag everywhere I go. That's so funny. I have not, but yes,
Listen,
everybody,
this is a true story. By the way, it's kind of like it's hilarious because I mean I guess Medellin has a little bit of has a little bit of a reputation too. Like, I think when we landed, I think that was one of the first things you noted. Like we were at like one of those little convenience stores that's inside of the airport, right? And you were like, look, Viagra. And you're like, there's Viagra everywhere. Viagra
There is. There's pharmacies
everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I think it was last night that I was there. I was I wanted to head back, and you're like, I
We're
need
all
to go
out
to
to
the
dinner. We're all out to
we're
dinner.
all out to dinner, and you and some of the guys were still there, and you wanted to make a special pit stop at the pharmacy before going home.
Yes.
And to pick up the goods, right?
We all wanted the same thing.
Was it all Viagra or Cialis? What'd you get? Did you get a little bit of both? Did you get sort of the
It
value
was like
pack?
a nasal spray Viagra, like,
Nasal spray, huh?
I think so. Yeah, it was really interesting. So, we've talked about before how low dosing Cialis for male and females really work at blood flow. And I'm all about that cognitive,
You're all about the
strength.
cognitive.
I'm all about the cognitive. Oh God, that could have been really bad. One fumble of a vowel. But like, but yes, I thought that was actually really funny. It's like me and like 3 or 4 guys, and we're all going to the pharmacy for Viagra, and then they're like kind of making fun of me, but it doesn't matter. I'm just gonna have healthier.
No, I thought it was great. I mean, load up. I mean,
I know.
Yeah, no,
I love it.
any problems with customs when you went back, and they're like, "Ma'am, why do
That would
you
have
have like
been amazing.
why do you have like 6 cartons of Viagra here, man?"
This is the Viagra. I'm like,
Well,
I know. I love it. Hey, see, just shows my humor. I love it.
there you go.
And so here we go into Reddit on Reddit. All right, Buck, here's the story.
Okay.
This weekend, I, 35-year-old male, took a sleep test for the first time in my life. My wife, who's a 36 female, is a skeptic of American medicine and has been upset with how much I use my phone. So to start, we have an 18-month-old baby that we take care of, but I wake up groggy and grumpy every day and have been for decades. So when I finally had the chance to take a sleep study, I jumped on it. I got the results back 2 days ago, and it came back positive. Obstructive sleep apnea. I wasn't surprised. What did surprise me was the price of a machine, nearly $900. So I booked an appointment to get the machine. My wife was livid. She told me that it's too much to pay and that I have student loans to pay off, that she's been saving all this money just for me to waste on myself when she hasn't gotten a good night's sleep in over a year and a half. She says that since I sleep heavily, I might sleep better than she does. So last night she was saying all I need to do is don't be on your phone all the time and you'll sleep better. I was so tired of her always thinking she's smarter than doctors, so I abruptly said, "Fuck you," and I stormed out of the room.
Yeah.
Like marriage problems, not necessarily sleep problems. No,
There you go.
Okay. To clarify, we have more than a year's income in savings. So at this point, we are hoarding money. Also, she told me it was just doctors trying to make money. Lastly, I do use my phone at night, but only to combat existing insomnia. So if I get a good night's rest, I am less likely to overuse coffee to stay alert during the day. Breaking the cycle of coffee equals bad night's sleep equals coffee. And I'm only 130 pounds, so it's clearly not a weight diabetic issue. I now own a CPAP machine, and the verdict... CPAP machine, which helps you sleep. What do you think? Do you think he's an asshole?
I don't think he's an asshole.
I don't either.
I think he's trying to figure out like what's
He's
wrong
super
with
correct.
him. But I think the diagnosis might be a little tricky.
Well,
One of the things,
$900, first of all, can I say, yeah, I mean, I guess that's a lot of money, but damn, I've thrown $900 at stupid shit, and I'm sure she might have too on like a TikTok shop or some shit like that.
yeah. Well,
Girls do that.
let's break it down. Okay, first
Okay.
of all, in terms of what exactly is obstructive sleep apnea.
Yeah, what is it?
So, obstructive sleep apnea is when you stop breathing at night.
Okay.
Because of your anatomy. So maybe it's the back of your tongue. Maybe it's, maybe it's tonsils. In kids, it's frequently tonsils.
Oh, interesting.
But what happens is, so there, we think of snoring, and then there's sleep apnea. They're actually different things. Snoring is the sound that comes from air moving past those structures. And in and of itself, even though snoring is annoying, it's pretty harmless. It doesn't create any serious problems. It might affect your sleep a little bit, but not as much as obstructive sleep apnea. Sleep apnea means literally stop breathing. Instead of hearing a noise, what's happening in this situation is there is a collapse of some tissues. Like, so for example, just think about like a loose tone in the very back of your tongue, which is actually in your throat or, around your nose or the tonsils or whatever. And it all collapses for a second because there's no tone there and you stop breathing. That is an apnea. Okay. And hypopnea is another word, which is where it slows down breathing but doesn't stop it altogether. So we look at obstructive sleep apnea, as he mentioned, he did a sleep study. So they put a bunch of things on you to monitor you overnight. You can do them at home now. And what they're able to do is to pick up whether, how many apneas or hypopneas you're having in a given night. Now, that's where it gets interesting, right? Because it's actually not really considered clinically significant if you have less than if you have like less than 15 of those.
Stopping in the middle of the night.
Yeah. So
or stop breathing.
It's really considered like if you go from like 5 to 15, or 10 to 15 or so, something like that. It's really called mild obstructive sleep apnea. Okay. That sounds like a lot per night, and it kind of is. But usually when you have those sort of milder types of apnea, that's when you can try to work on those with some behavioral things. Like, for example, if you're drinking at night, that's going to increase your risk of losing tone and having, apneic episodes. The other thing is positionally, like, for example, I have mild sleep apnea. I think my apnea hypopnea index is 9.
Okay.
But it only happens when I lie on my back. And if you think about it, lying on back, everything is collapsing in the back of your throat. Right? So I don't sleep on my back. And as long as I don't sleep on my back, I really don't have much of an issue with obstructive sleep apnea.
Okay.
Right. So once you get over 15, you can get, you can get to some serious numbers, right?
That would be insane to stop
15,
breathing.
you can get to 30, you can get to people having 70, 100 of these per night. And now, okay, so now, for example, if say you have somebody with severe obstructive sleep apnea, which is a score of over 30, okay, that increased the all-cause mortality risk by 3.8 times. So untreated obstructive sleep apnea patients, they have shorter lifespans, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, bottom line is this is a serious problem. Now, the one thing that
I think the wife just doesn't even want him to like maybe live, because it sounds like there's like a lot of marital problems and she doesn't really. They don't sound happy.
No, the one thing that was left out of that was what this guy's actual apnea-hypopnea index was.
Yeah, it was
And
like 10, right?
no, I think it was like 5.1.
Okay.
Okay. So that is mild,
Oh, that's super mild
super mild. And
compared to what you were
so
saying.
technically, I would not prescribe this guy CPAP. Now, somebody
Mhm.
is
Okay.
selling a CPAP machine to this guy.
So the wife is kinda right on that
He's,
then.
he's kind of right on it.
Wow.
He's not an asshole because he's been lied to, kind of,
Right, exactly, that's true, and he's
right?
just trying to he says he has an 18-month-old baby, that he's always feeling groggy, so he is also desperate to just have a peaceful night's sleep and wake up refreshed so that he can probably be nicer to his wife and also be, more alert and have the wherewithal to tend to a baby. So he's has all the best intentions, I see.
Yeah, he has the best intentions.
Yeah.
He's not being an asshole. However, maybe in this situation, the doctor is being an idiot, or somebody who's
Mhm.
selling him the CPAP is either
Yeah.
misguided or just simply trying to get him. CPAP is a pain in the ass too, by the way.
Is it
You
that big old machine, like, you put on as if it's, I don't
Yeah,
know, it always reminds me of, like, Bane or some shit, like, putting it on your
yeah,
muzzle? Yeah.
yeah. You put it on your face, and it's basically what it does is it blows positive pressure in your mouth all night
Interesting.
long.
And makes you breathe.
And makes it so that those airways don't collapse. So if you can imagine putting like positive pressure airway
Yeah.
through those tissues, they don't collapse. So,
Hmm.
I mean, it's the gold standard for, for treating apnea. A lot of people don't tolerate it. The other thing, by the way, is if people have mild obstructive sleep apnea, some of these dental appliances at night, they seem to work pretty well too. So that would be another option. It probably wouldn't be a whole lot cheaper than his sleep apnea
Probably would
machine,
be, yeah.
but
Wait,
maybe you should just
do you
try to
mean
sleep
like
on its
a
side.
retainer or something, things like that?
Yeah,
Or
they're like these molded things that kind of just pull your jaw
ah,
forward a little bit.
oh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
interesting.
So
Okay.
those are somewhat useful too. But
Hmm.
bottom line is, I think this is a very complicated case. I vote not an asshole, but misguided and doesn't need a
Definitely.
CPAP machine.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with comedian and writer Ed Crasnick to discuss laughter and longevity.
Longevity Junkie is grateful to our partners at BioAccelerator for a very memorable trip and experience.
Agreed. Buck and I both benefited greatly from this incredible stem cell therapy, which can play a huge role in longevity.
You may know BioAccelerator is one of the leading stem cell research laboratories in the world, delivering advanced therapies directed at anything from anti-aging, pain relief, skin rejuvenation, and even preventive care.
It's truly inspiring work that can help each and every one of us. And if you want to learn more, please reach out to Liz at longevityjunkie at bioaccelerator.com for special discounts and offers. That's Longevity Junkie, spelled with a Y, at BIOXELLERATOR.com for special discounts and offers. Welcome back to Longevity Junkie. Time for our guest interview. It's the breakdown with comedian and writer Ed Crasnick. Ed Crasnick is an Emmy-winning writer and comedian who has worked on shows including Curb Your Enthusiasm, The Sopranos, Hot in Cleveland, Crashing, and Whose Line Is It Anyway? He's also a mental health advocate, the founder of Make Light Media, uniting mental health and comedy, and he hosts the Mental Health Comedy Podcast, where comics and entertainers talk about their lives and practice resilient skills. Welcome to the show, Ed.
It's great to meet you, Nick. Yeah, it's great to meet you, Nikki, and hi, and glad to see you, Buck. And I'll tell you, that's the first time anybody's ever gotten any part of my name or my introduction right, and I'm so overwhelmed that I don't think I can continue.
You're like, it's
But
me. It is me.
can you do it again? No. I'm excited to be here with both of you. You know, I'm 178 years old, so I'm the king of longevity.
Well, that's the real focus of the Longevity Podcast.
Yeah, that's impressive.
78 years old. your career is fascinating, and you've worked with, okay, first of all, just what stands out for me personally is Hot in Cleveland, which means you worked with Betty White.
Yes. Can I swear on this show? I'll tell you a
Yes.
funny Betty White story very quickly. The first thing she said, "Welcome, honey. We can't say fuck, but we can say shit." Um, that was Betty White's introduction to me.
Oh my
Well,
gosh.
Betty would have been a good longevity one too.
I know.
You know the old saying,
When God closes a door, he opens a window?
no. The best way to get over a man is to get under another one.
She's a great example of like longevity and all about her thinking and her perspective. That's really what it was. She really was had great perspective and a lot of energy and a lot of gratefulness. Like she was always really grateful for where she was and what she was doing. Very humble person.
Well, I feel like those, as we've like had our episodes in this show, I feel those things you just mentioned are true attributes to what makes a person live longer, healthier. Being able to be grateful and have that.
It is. I remember I was on a scene with her once. She was also so brilliant about sitcoms. She said, "Sweetheart, I hate to," always so deferential. "Sweetheart, I hate to bother you, but I think if I smile when you say that line to me, it's going to get a big laugh." And I had no idea what the hell she was talking about because she was like so far ahead that I was like, "What are you even talking about?" She smiles, it gets a huge laugh. I didn't see it coming at all. At all. She just goes like, and the whole audience goes crazy.
Oh,
Yep.
well,
Genius.
it's a testament to her career. I mean, it was pretty insane.
Yeah. But that's what you say. I mean, that's the funny thing about all of the things that seem so simple but are so complex because, and I'm really, this has been difficult for me in my life. I get in the way a lot, and then after a while, I learned that getting in the way and making fun of getting in the way is actually a good key to humor. Because all of the crazy things that we think and all the crazy stuff that I do to myself and all the things that I'm worried about, that's actually where the humor can come in and kind of change the world and kind of open up a key to all kinds of stuff, comedy, creativity, everything. You just use what you're obsessing about, use what you're thinking about, use what you're catastrophizing about. And now we live in a world where, these things aren't made up. I mean, we have, there are a lot of difficult things going on in the world, but there's always humor and there's always a way to have humor because whatever technique you use, whatever makes you laugh, whether it's silliness, whether it's exaggeration, whatever it is, making fun of yourself or making fun of situations that you're in, that just loosens you up. That connects you to other people. And it opens you up, right?
But it also, like, if somebody else is, trying to hate on you or do anything negative towards you, being able to laugh at yourself or at the situation takes away the power from them and puts it back on you. So it is also just a very self-empowering thing.
It really is. I mean, if you want to, if you want to, the path of least resistance, just go along with it and do more, exaggerate. With all kinds of emotions, right? Even fear. Oh, I'm really afraid. Could I even be more afraid? You can welcome it and open up, and you can always do more. And it's so funny what happens. It just dissipates like that.
Yeah.
The resistance is what makes people unhappy, and
right.
So humor is the great release.
Tell us how you have been able to really join and marry comedy and mental health advocacy.
Well, I mean, there's nothing more powerful than like comedy and emotion, like humor and emotion. When you think, people make fun of it all, they always say, "I'm laughing, I'm crying." Well, that's where things really exist. That's where things really are. And I was making all these shows over the years for different people. And I thought, gee, I wonder if there's a way that I could unite, both. If I could take, therapy and comedy, if I could, because half my life has been therapy, half my life has been comedy. If psychotherapy could be used, could be converted to frequent flyer miles, I'd be eligible for a free trip to Pluto. There's no question that I've had some psychotherapy. But if I could do both in the same show. So I started to do like a live show where actors would come on and they would talk about their life issues. And then I had a psychodramatist, a role play therapist, who guided them through acting out their emotions and acting out their issues in front of an audience. And
Wow.
that was the best show I've ever done by far, because it was humor and emotion. It was mental health and comedy.
Wow.
I give you an example. A woman was on the show, Mo Collins, great actress, Mad TV, Parks and Rec, all these shows. She comes on. I said, "What's going on?" She said, "Well, I just got back from my mother, and I hate my mother." And I said, "Well, how many people hate their mothers in this audience?" Everybody raised their hand. How many people hate her mother, not having even met or heard about the woman? Everybody raised their hand. Said, "Well, how's that going to resolve itself?" She said, "In a funeral home." Now, I have a therapist sitting beside me on the stage, and I have a panel of comedic actors who are going to help her act out her situation. And the therapist says, "Well, this is your lucky day because this is a funeral home. And I'm going to have our panelist, at the time it was Jimmy Pardo and Moon Zappa and Patton Oswalt. I'm going to have Moon come over and lay down here in this grave and be your mom. She's finally gone. And now you get to do the eulogy." Now, Mo Collins is a funny person. She's crying now. She's crying. The audience is like, they're holding their breath. Jimmy Pardo is on the panel. He says, I have a question. Why is Moon Zappa laying down in a grave like she's a guest star on CSI Miami who lays in a grave like that? People are starting to laugh. They open up. And over the next 10 minutes, Mo will play herself as a kid. She'll be guided through this process with a therapist. Patton Oswalt, other actors will come in and play different roles in her life. And at the end of 10 minutes, she has a different relationship with her mom. Her mom's not there. So that's an example of the power of like humor and emotion, laughing and crying. And the audience becomes electric because they're allowed to release more than one emotion at a time. The problem with the way we relate to our thoughts and feelings is we think we can only do one at a time. It's either got to be pain or it's got to be humor. It's got to be laughter or it's got to be depression. It's got to be sadness or it's got to be. And when you mix them, you come to life. That's where life really is.
No, I think it's you probably know this, Ed, and either through reading about it or just inherently knowing the fact. But there is research it shows that comedians are more likely to be depressed than the general population. There was a study in 2014 that suggested that not only depression but also some psychosis and things like that. Now, obviously, we have some high profile comedians like Robin Williams and Jim Carrey coming out about that as well. I find it interesting because it seems like a lot of the comedians potentially are using this as an inherent coping mechanism for themselves to star.
Well, that's definitely true. And it's a classic story, with me. When I was a little kid, I was very close to my mom, like all little kids are. And I saw that she was very unhappy. And so I immediately at age 5 went into a man on the street routine where at age 5, I actually looked at her because I couldn't stand to see her unhappy. And I said, Shirley Crasnick seems to be very unhappy. It might have something to do with her husband. And I went 5 years old and she started to laugh. And then I knew I was in and I knew how to do it. Yeah. And so inherently I knew there was like this, boy, we're in trouble here. We can't have this happen. My mother was the funniest person I ever met in my life. And she could turn darkness into light. And she had that unique ability too. So I kind of got it from her. But you're right. I think the reason why comedians, struggle with depression and anxiety and things like that is because the brain is a fast brain and it thinks really fast. And the way that we process things is just that we go down as opposed to go up. And we go into the tunnel really quick. And we think about all the it's exaggerated. It's like a funhouse mirror. And that's just the way our brains are wired. And if you live in a place where you've got certain issues, you pick it up and you learn how to use that to survive very quickly. And so that was definitely the story. There was a lot of stress in the house. There's also a lot of love, but I picked it up. I felt the sense of danger and I figured I better do something. So you exaggerate it. You make it bigger. You make it, or you comment on it, right?
But it's also something where, what's really healthy is actually feeling every emotion. And with comedians, everyone is expecting the comedian to be funny all the time and be light. And, they're human too. And they're not really able to be seen as a full circle human with all the emotions. And I think that also makes it hard on somebody when they feel like they can't really express all emotions or be accepted by the people for having anything but a humor and, or like showing humor. So I think that too is something that is really stressful on somebody.
It can be really stressful. And the best, especially if you get points for making people laugh, you're thinking that that's your way in, but I do think that we're lucky that we're kind of in an age right now where more people are talking about depression, more people are talking about mental health. That hasn't happened for a very long time, but it's emerging and it's happening more and more and more and more. And you're learning that the best kind of comedy is the kind that has humor and emotion together. That's the deepest kind of comedy, and that's the comedy that you don't forget. That's the comedy that stays with you. Silly stuff, other stuff, once the comic is off the stage, you forget it. But something that has a little bit of depth, something that has personal experience, that's the best kind of comedy.
The idea that laughter is medicine, it's been around forever. And I guess from your perspective, I'm wondering, how does humor tangibly impact our health and well-being?
Well, I think first of all, it's a release. It's a tremendous release. And so I think when there's a lot of stress, and it helps with just simply opening up. It helps you think differently. So thinking is a big part of this, right? Our thoughts create reality. So thinking, whether it's not accurate thinking that we often have. And when I say we, I mean me. I can't talk about anybody but myself. When my thinking is distorted, laughing and looking at it from a different perspective actually changes the way I think about things. And because of that, I'm able to open up more. Everything, the pain and struggle come from resistance. So you have a thought, you have a feeling, and you think it's not okay. And laughter helps you realize that not only are you okay, but you're also connected to other people. You're not isolated. We're all the same. And it's a glue. It sort of connects you to other people. So it does a few things. And then physiologically, better than anybody, the effects on the brain and the effects on the limbic system and all of that.
Yeah. I mean, so there's lots of interesting things that happen when we laugh, right? I mean, first of all, you've got better blood flow. So you get some of the benefits of light exercise, certainly. So it's kind of like going to the gym, except you're not going to the gym. But you've also got you talk about sort of that shift in thinking. Part of that may be because when we laugh, there actually is this sort of physical stimulation of the back of the throat. And that is where the vagus nerve is. The vagus nerve, obviously, it drives what's called parasympathetic function. And that's a part of the nervous system that counters the fight or flight. It's the rest or relax system. So when we laugh, we're triggering that parasympathetic nervous system, and it literally is putting us in a different state of rest and relaxation. So I hate to take the magic out of it or whatever, at least explain the magic, but there's
thanks
really
a lot, Buck. Yeah, really. No, thanks. It's great. No, I appreciate it.
I'm just
thank
go
you.
out there. No, so I'm just going to go out there and hum for a bit, if you don't mind, and save myself some money on tickets to the comedy show. So, but it is an interesting phenomena because there literally is a, physical mechanism to sort of this break in nervous system changes.
Well, this is why they say what happens in the vagus nerve stays in the vagus nerve. It's a calming thing. It's a stress, cortisol. I mean, the thing is, whatever you tell your brain, it believes. Whatever you tell the midbrain, it believes. So if you can say, I'm excited, or you can say, look at how crazy I am right now. This is amazing. Look how great. Look what you did, Ed, with 1 second. I can remember a time when I came out, you want to talk about exaggeration in comedy and stress. I came out one time and there was a Denver boot on my car. Like I hadn't paid parking tickets. Okay. This was years ago, not recently, because I'm so much better now. But I hadn't paid tickets. And so it comes out. And my first thought was, I'm going to have to move back in with my parents. And my parents had been dead for 20 years. So, it's like, that's not good thinking. That's not accurate thinking. It is not possible, So
Right.
anyway, the vagus nerve at work.
The vagus nerve, and obviously you got all those dopamine feedback things when people are actually laughing at your jokes, which I wonder what happens with poor comedians. I wonder if they don't have the same health benefits as somebody who's actually.
Well, I've had both. I mean, I've had both. Unfortunately, that's the way you have to learn stand-up, is you have to go through a lot of the people looking at you like, or the worst is feeling sorry. It's sort of like, when they just sort of shake their head, or they're sort of, there's two people on a bill and you're one of them and you didn't have a great show that night. It's part of learning. And they look at the one guy, they say, you were really funny. And then they point to you and they go,
yeah, you were pretty good too. Who were you?
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. It's hard, but that's comedy. That's comedy. And that's where you have to learn to laugh at that too.
And well, when you had like this moment of looking at the unpaid parking ticket or the boot or whatever on your car, and you thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to move back in with my parents. Was there like, that's negative self-talk in a sense, right? That's like,
right.
That's telling yourself that you can't handle the next step. Now, is there something that you do, like some sort of resilient exercise that you do to get yourself out of that? Or is it just kind of a switch for you?
Question it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that really true?
Mm-hmm.
Is that really true? Are you really going to have to move back in? Wait a minute. Your parents aren't alive. So wait a minute. That might be hard. And you question it, right? That's a really simple thing that anybody can do.
Mm-hmm.
We think that our thoughts are facts, and they're not facts. They're just thoughts, and they have no basis in reality, and oftentimes they're not accurate. And you can have better thoughts, of course, and what you tell yourself matters. That's the other thing. Like what I tell myself matters. So I could tell myself anything, and it's funny that the brain actually believes what you tell it.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, you could tell it anything you want. And Marcus Aurelius, the great Roman emperor, the great Stoic, said the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, and he was a million laughs.
Let's talk more about mental health in your work, because you've had an incredible career writing for some of the funniest shows that I've ever seen, especially the recent Curb Your Enthusiasm.
I didn't put my glass down there. I held on to it.
No, but you were here.
Yeah, I know, but the glass never left my hand. When I'm in social situations, I always hold on to my glass. It makes me feel comfortable and secure, and I don't have to shake hands.
How are you able to really intertwine mental health advocacy, besides that amazing thing that you described with the actors playing out their psychotherapy? I think you need to bring that back and have me on for sure.
I will. No, I mean, really, the humor and emotion, mental health and comedy, they exist together. And I think that part of the thing is if you're really trying to help people, you can act things out, just like little kids act things out and they role play naturally. I think that they say life is not a dress rehearsal. It actually is a dress rehearsal. You can rehearse anything and should rehearse everything, because we prepare for everything except how to deal with our thoughts and feelings. We prepare for trips. We prepare for tests. We prepare for all kinds of stuff. The only thing we don't prepare for is how to deal with life situations. And you can rehearse and practice anything. Mental health is a practice. It's not a topic. It's been treated as a topic, but it's really a practice. And how do you get better in anything? You practice it. So whether it's questioning your thoughts and feelings, whether it's noticing your emotions, whether it's meditation, whether it's acting things out. Oh, you're worried about going to a party. You're worried about something. Okay, let's go to it right now. Let's be worried. Here's what am I going to do? What's the first thing I'm going to say? What's the first thing I'm going to ask? What am I going to do when I get this thought in my head, when I tell myself that that I'm not as good as other people, when I start comparing myself? What am I going to do? Anybody can do this. The funny thing about the interventions is that they're really simple. They're not complex. And it can be as simple as just observing what you're telling yourself. Write it down. Write down the thoughts. Write down a few things that you tell yourself during the day when you're in conflict. So it's fight, flight, or laugh.
Yeah.
You can add a third thing to it.
I really wonder if there's a difference in benefit or physiological response to being the one telling the joke or the one laughing, or somebody who laughs at their own jokes maybe gets the most benefits of it. But I'm curious on your thoughts on that. When you tell a joke and somebody laughs, it's kind of a different experience, right?
Oh, the greatest thrill in the world is knowing that something is going to work and that they're going to laugh. And there was a joke that I used to do where I used to tell a story and there's only one laugh in the story and it's a 3-minute long story. But I tell them that I'm going to tell a story and I sit down on a stool and I talk softly and I bring them in and then the punchline makes them laugh so hard that the laugh is equal to the length of the silence of the story.
Wow. That's
the greatest thrill in the world. It's exciting. It's joyous, but it's also really exciting.
There's probably people out there. I know guys who have never thought in a million years would have said this, or like, I'm thinking about doing stand up, and I'm like, yeah, but you're not really funny. I don't say that part, but they say, well, there's like these courses, and they can basically teach you just sort of a formula. Is there a formula?
There's no formula for being funny. You can learn how to do stand up.
Right.
But there's no formula for being funny. Being funny is being yourself.
Well,
so
what does it mean, the formula for stand up? What does that mean?
Well, you can learn how to craft, you can learn how to write a setup. You can learn how to write a premise, you can learn how to write a punchline.
Right.
Is it good? No.
Yeah.
Might be good. Could be good, but the good is in practicing it. And the good comes across when you learn to be yourself in front of people. That is really what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the funny part. That's the, I learned how to do stand up. Well, yeah, but you didn't learn how to be funny. Yeah. Being funny is being who you are. So be more of who you are and then you'll be funny.
Because everyone is so unique, so I feel like that's where the power is in that, where everyone
and it's your perspective and your perspective, right? It's your experience, your perspective. You and that's what a good comedy teacher will try to do, is to figure out what's your thing. Like, and usually it's when you're not trying. It's just something that you say.
Again, I'm not, psychiatrist or psychologist or anything, but I do think that people do have some types of thinking patterns that are pretty recognized. And I think that some of them are very circular in nature. And you see that in people who are depressed frequently, where they're ruminating about the same thing over and over again. And so you get into these cycles, and breaking that cycle of thinking is part of what we hope that pharmacological therapy will do, right? And so, if laughter is able to do that, you're effectively, potentially breaking those cycles of negative thought. Now, as far as neuroplasticity and all that, I think that's a little bit different. Certainly, we had Michael Mance on the show talked about the use of ketamine and that kind of thing, where your brain becomes primed for neuroplasticity more. But I think whether it's therapy, whether it's pharmacological therapy, potentially laughter, all of these things are gradually breaking away these negative cycles. And that's presumably, the benefit that people are seeing from it.
Well, Dr. Daniel Amen, I know he has a book on being happier, and I'm sure that laughter is definitely in there. His book is You Happier, the 7 Neuroscience Secrets of feeling happy. And so I know he would have a lot to say in that book. But I do remember from an interview or from his interview on our show about how he told the pole vaulter to watch Kevin Hart.
Vegas is hasn't been so good to me.
Why
Yeah,
do you say that?
not as much. I done got in some damn trouble in Vegas. I keep my little ass out of Vegas as much as I can.
It calmed her down. It released the anxiety. When you're able to laugh, like you were saying, it does so much for the body, and you're actually able to let go, and your parasympathetic nervous system is able to just relax. And I think all the tension that we hold in our bodies is able to just like relax and let go.
I think about Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart, is not a tall man. And I think about him affecting somebody who's pole vaulting. That's in itself a big thing.
Well, it's the irony, I think, that might trigger the laughter there. Is that possible?
Yeah.
You're just sort of makes it easier to pole vault over Kevin Hart than you might also feel like it's an easier task at hand.
It's a much easier. In fact, next time I see him, I'm going to try to pole vault over him.
Probably.
And I might not even need a pole. I might just be able to leap.
Yeah.
I might just be able to skip over him.
Maybe if it just do a little hop
No,
skip.
a genius, a brilliant guy.
Perfect.
Yeah, but again, that goes back again to the whole trigger of the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic nervous system. It's basically reducing stress. I mean, that seems to be the major role, and heart rate variability as well, as we know that's a major component of overall health and potentially longevity as well. Heart rate variability is the time between the beats, not how quickly your heart rate is beating, but in a healthy person, somebody with more parasympathetic tone, that range of how long it takes from one beat to another is quite variable, and when you're laughing a lot, that goes up too. So it'll help with your sleep. And if it's helping with sleep, it's going to help probably clear out some of those nasty aggregates that are going to cause Alzheimer's. So there's clearly a health benefit there it's leading to
Well, a
longevity.
great technique is you're looking for a pause, right? There's to anything that you can do to create a pause between the thought and the reaction that you have. Anything that you can do to make a little bit of space, whatever it is, even if it's just, anger is such a quick emotion and we have it so often, but we can slow things. If we can slow things down by just even putting your hand on your stomach and saying, what is, it's here. Here's where I feel it. I feel a lot of stuff here. A lot of stuff gets trapped in my solar plexus. So even just putting a hand on it.
Yeah.
Right. We have cultures in the world where, my mother and ethnic cultures where when they have a headache, they put their hand on their forehead, and they do it because they're trying to bring stimulation to that part of their brain that's worried. Right. That's an automatic thing that cultures do. So I think, creating a pause is a big thing. And if it's through laughter, that's fantastic. And if it's through questioning your thoughts, that's fantastic. And if it's just observing it, that's a pause, and that's fantastic.
Buck, I want to ask you about heart rate variability real quick.
Yeah,
Is it better to have a higher number or a lower number?
You want a higher number.
You want the higher number? And what's a really healthy high number?
Well, yeah, that's a tricky one. So
Or range.
some people are genetically. So I think the best way to track heart rate variability is to get a baseline of what your normal heart rate variability is, because there's genetic components to it too. So for example, I have, a little bit higher heart rate at baseline. And so that makes it harder for me to get more heart rate variability. So typically what I think the best thing to do is to look at what your baseline is. And then, you're going to have higher days and lower days. And for some people, that might be, for some people, a good heart rate variability might be in the 70s and 80s, and some might be in the 20s or 30s. So it's hard to say, but, well, a quick question for you though, Ed, is you mentioned sort of different cultures and that kind of thing. Is there a key to making people laugh across cultures? I mean, because there's a different, people have different sense of humor. They do have different senses of humor. Oh, what is it inherently that makes people laugh?
Well, recognition, right? I recognize that that's something that I've experienced too, and identification with that. So anything in the human condition, for me, I think poking fun at oneself, at one's insides, at one's thoughts, at one's
But is
feelings.
that a sort of culturally, across the board, poking fun at yourself? Because
I think it is,
Yeah.
but I know that different cultures have different sort of nuances. In Italy and in Amsterdam and French culture, I know that they respond to silly, but I, I think that poking fun at oneself is poking fun at everybody because we all are the same when it comes down to it. And we all have the same experiences and we all go through the same things. And so if you're doing that, that's going to open the viewer up and the listener up. And it's going to make them empathetic to where you are. And if you exaggerate it, it's going to be funny.
We're talking a lot about this sort of, the benefits from the standpoint of stress and all these things. Do you think that there could be a more formal, or maybe there already is, maybe it's something you're working on, a more formally integrated program, like for health and wellness practices? I mean, I can kind of see like, comedian coming into a hospital room or something like that. Could we see programs like laughter therapy or clinics like that?
There's laughter yoga practices. There's
What's that?
There's an actual class where people
you go in there and laugh at people doing yoga. Is that the?
Well, I've done that a lot. If you see me doing yoga, you're going to laugh. You don't want to see me do tree pose. It's not good. But there's integrations of of laughter and humor with all kinds of different programs. And I would say that my dream is to have a 24-hour emotional fitness center. My dream is that has exercises, that has where you're using your imagination, because imagination is a practice. It can be a tool. You're looking at your thinking. You're using, like, I have a friend who, Rini Jane, brilliant. She has a company called Go Zen where they teach resilience skills through animation. And one of the things she's always talking about is karaokeing your thoughts. So if you have negative thinking, you make a song out of it.
Interesting.
And you can play. It's this idea of being playful with your, and it can be humor based. And, that's one thing that you can do. But I think emotional fitness centers, I think everybody needs a coach, and you have different techniques that you can use. There are different things. They're not complex. They're not, it's,
I feel I do a little bit of that when I go to Qigong, because when you do Qigong, you do, like, there's parts where you are, you're moving energy, and there's a part especially where we have like an energy ball, if you will, and you have to kind of imagine that, right? You have to feel it. You have to whoa, sorry about that.
Oh my.
It's the I have to take medicine according to our stem cell therapist. Sorry about that. Oh my God.
That's a Qigong alarm. That's an
aggressive.
alarm.
I'm so sorry, but otherwise I won't do it. Sorry about that. But now everyone knows.
I love that alarm, Nikki. That is an alarm that would be.
Otherwise, if it's too whimsical, I get super excited about it, and then I kind of forget what I need to do. If it's like jolting,
well, I'd have a heart attack from the alarm, and then they'd have to revive me and give me the paddles, and then I'd do the Qigong.
That's what my girlfriend. She was like, "That is so aggressive." I was like, it'll make me stop my day and remember I have to do something. But yeah,
get up, get healthy now.
Get out of here, exactly. But with the Qigong, like, I really do feel like I'm using my imagination, because when I am visualizing energy, I like to think of it as something really beautiful or sparkly, or like, really see something with it, whether it be color or whatever. And Qigong is incredible. So, and it does so many things. So I feel like it'd be, it makes me, that's what I think of when you say an emotional fitness center. But I think that is so beautiful. like that there's something really to that. Okay, but I did have a question. When you mentioned laughing yoga or whatever, now are people just like laughing? Are you just doing the like, are you just laughing? And does it do anything? Because if it's not genuine, does it really do anything for you?
The funny thing is it does. I think it does. I think it it's a breathing thing. It's a breathing thing. So it's a tool. But I think one thing too is smiling. So like one like really simple exercise is you close your eyes and you wake up in the morning, you close your eyes, you take 30 seconds and you think of somebody that you love or think of something that you enjoy or you think of and you get the picture in your mind and then you smile to it. And you take 30 seconds and you do that.
Yeah, it
And
just
it
allows
really
you to approach the day with something to
it
look
could be
forward
a person, you see the face
Mm-hmm.
when you close your eyes, I mean, that's a tool that could be great. Again, these things sound really simple. They sound really trite. They're not. They're, we do all kinds of stuff to ourselves every day that are the opposite of that.
I was going
And
to
that
say negative.
feed into that down constantly. So we're always practicing something. There was a guy I interviewed, David Portnoy, and he wrote a book called The Art and Science of, I think it's called Wait, The Art and Science of Managing Delay. And he talked about the health benefits of procrastination, that you actually need to wait. Waiting is like a big thing. The next time you feel like you have to send that email, wait for a minute. That when you're a doctor, and this, Bug, when you're a doctor and you're in an emergency situation and you have a minute to make a decision, you don't make the decision in the first 10 seconds. You give yourself as much time as you can, and then you make a decision. You get the information. And so this idea of waiting is like a big thing, and it makes you more human, less animal. And social media has made us more animal and less human. We have to get the answer now. Anyway, that I found that a really interesting answer. David Portnoy is his name.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah, not funny stuff, but interesting stuff. And if I could, wait a minute, this guy was supposed to be comedic. All right, look, go back to pole vaulting and leaping over Kevin Hart. Stick with that. You'll be sick.
There you go.
Stick with that. No, but at any rate, yeah. I mean, look, it's a difficult time, but we don't have to be in fight or flight mode all the time.
Yeah.
And even just recognizing when we're in it, that will change your life. And you could do that through humor really quickly. I'll watch South Park.
Yeah, I think that's a great thing.
That'll be it for me.
Yeah. No, those are great suggestions. I love that. Thank you so much. I'll definitely make sure to wait and have those pauses. I think that's definitely one thing that I'm definitely taking away from this. So I appreciate
that alarm. I'm going to put that alarm on. And I'm going to... No, I loved it. I love it because it shows how committed you are to this kind of change.
Commitment.
You are somebody who's very committed to change. I love that.
I very much am, actually.
Yeah.
Well, Ed, thank you so much. This has been really enlightening.
Oh,
Thanks,
it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to see both of you, and best to you all the time.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with our healthy takeout. Welcome back to Longevity Junky. Time for our healthy takeout. All right, well, Buck, that was nice.
Yeah,
It's interesting
absolutely.
to have somebody who is that intense of a writer.
Yeah,
Like,
seriously.
he's on a lot more shows than I thought. Whoa.
It's hard too, like when you talk to somebody who's funny, who's like a professional comedian, because you're like, you try to be funny a little bit, and it doesn't work. Like, I'm funny too.
Yeah, you're like, honestly, I do better just being funny just in life, because I like to laugh with myself a lot. I don't care. I don't take it that seriously. I take myself very seriously when I'm by myself, but when I'm around other people, I lighten up and I poke fun, and I'm just like, I don't care. I just do the stupidest things, or I'll do anything that's like health driven. So I don't care. Like, literally, walk outside with my red light mask on and people with my dog, and people are like, what are you doing? Like, people don't do this. And I'm just like, hey, it's health. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, that's just what I do. But I
Well,
thought it was great to see the connection, though, and that honestly, one of my biggest things was that he did that show, or that like psychotherapy, like on stage, like with actors, and had you act out your, your therapy. I
yeah.
thought that was actually really cool to learn about.
Yeah,
And
no, there really is a connection to all this, and longevity is
Mhm.
we've sort of alluded to, and a lot of this seems to kind of ultimately flow from that whole parasympathetic nervous system
Mhm.
stimulation, right? And
Right.
you know, you start with something as simple as the parasympathetic nervous system. Oh, stimulation of that. What does that mean? Higher heart rate variability, as we discussed. We talked about that ultimately being able to lead to better sleep,
Mhm.
being able to lead to potentially better metabolic health. And, it's like one thing after another. So where does this go ultimately? And how does it really potentially benefit us? Well, so there was a study, there's a, it's in April in a journal called Psychosomatic Medicine. So it's not the New
Mhm.
England Journal of Medicine, of course, but it's still a study, and it's a big study. It was 15 years long, over 53,000 individuals, and ultimately
Jeez.
um, linking the sense of humor to mortality, and basically what found that women with higher scores in the cognitive component of humor. In other words, maybe they were kind of funnier. They had a 48% lower risk of death from all causes, and an 83% lower risk of death from infection. Whereas for men, the significant association was a 74% risk of death from infection, uh, for people who were funnier, or, higher cognitive
Hmm.
humor scores, I guess is the way of saying
Hey,
it,
Betty
right?
White, all the way.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, truly.
Um, yeah. So, I mean, the idea is going to be, buffer against stress and social conflicts, and prevent the escalation of stress hormones that can suppress uh, immune functions. By the way, that's the significance of the infection part. Is the idea is that these parasympathetic stimulations reduce cortisol, and higher levels of cortisol are correlated with higher risk of infection. So if you can
Really?
decrease that, you're decreasing risk of infection. Anyway, so the idea ultimately is that cultivating a sense of humor could be an effective strategy, for overall health outcomes.
Yeah.
So it's a large sample size, long-term study. So it's got some credibility there. And, a lot of this, sometimes I look at these things and I say, do I really need a study to prove that? You know what I mean? But there you
Yeah,
have it.
right.
There is a study there, and
Good.
it's kind of what you would think.
Well, I know that, like, my grandma lived a really long, like, a nice, long, healthy life, 94, and her favorite thing to do was tell dirty jokes. So she
Yeah.
would, my personal Betty White, I called her G
Yeah.
Mom, my little gangster, and I love that I actually inherited
The
her
dirty
dirty
joke
joke
gene.
books.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
dirty.
well, that's yes, definitely the gene, but I
Yeah.
also have
Mm.
some dirty joke books
Yeah.
that I actually cracked open the other
Wow.
day, and I know, and I was reading, and I was laughing so hard.
These are like
So,
dirty joke books from like the 70s and stuff,
I
or
I don't know when it was from, but because she was so like, she was
yeah.
hilarious with her dirty jokes, that I know that people, like, started to gift her more of them so she could,
Yeah.
have more in her repertoire. Okay, here's one that's short and sweet. Doctor, ma'am, are you sexually active? Woman says, well, sometimes I is, and sometimes I just lays there.
Okay. Yeah. There you go. That's good. It's just a good Jima grandma joke.
I'll have to read these and come back with them because
All right,
there's a
we'll
whole
come back
section on
with some
doctors.
more. And with
Yes.
that, well, why don't you go ahead and read us out?
Okay. Longevity Junky is created by Dr. Buck Joffrey, MD, and Timothy Fonara. It is executive produced by myself, Nikki Lee, Buck Joffrey, and Timothy Fonora. The show is produced by Pretty Fast, and Phil Ferragamo is our producer, and original music by Alloy Tracks. We're distributed by our friends at Acast, and see you next time.